Letters of Swami Vivekananda, letter number 82, written to Sri Alasinga Perumal of Madras, care of Mr. John B. Lyon, 262 Michigan Avenue. The footnote reads, presumably Swamiji stayed with the Lyons until his visit to Mrs. Lydia Avery Conley in the first week of November 1893. After that, he moved to the Hales. Chicago, 2nd November 1893. Dear Alasinga, yesterday I got your letter. I am so sorry that a moment's unbelief and weakness on my part would cause you all so much trouble. Well, when Chavildas left me, I felt so destitute and out of pocket that in my despair I sent you the telegram. Since then, Lord sent me friends. At a village near Boston, I made the acquaintance of Dr. Wright, professor of Greek in the Harvard University. He sympathized with me very much and urged upon me the necessity of going to the Parliament of Religions, which he thought would give me an introduction to the nation. As I was not acquainted with anybody, the professor undertook to arrange everything for me, and eventually I came back to Chicago. Here I was lodged in the house of a gentleman, Mr. Lyon, as were all the Oriental and Occidental members to the Parliament of Religions. On the morning of the opening of the Parliament, we all assembled in a building called the Art Palace, where one huge and other smaller temporary halls were created for the sittings of the Parliament. Men from all nations were there. From India were Mazumdar of the Brahmo Samaj and B.B. Nagarkar of Bombay. Mr. Veerchand Gandhi represented the Jains, and our Mr. Gyanendranath Chakravarti represented Theosophy, with Mrs. Annie Besant. Footnote reads, Mrs. Annie Besant, 1847 to 1933, was a British socialist and writer. She described her observation of Swamiji at the Parliament in the following words: a striking figure, clad in yellow and orange, shining like the sun of India in the midst of the heavy atmosphere of Chicago. Monk, they called him, not unwarrantably, warrior monk was he, and the first impression was of the warrior rather than of the monk, for he was off the platform and his figure was instinct with pride of country, pride of race, the representative of the oldest of living religions. He brought her message, he spoke in her name. Purposeful, virile, strong, he stood out, a man among men, able to hold his own. Of these men, Mazumdar and I were of course old friends, and Chakravarti knew me by name. There was a grand procession, and we were all marshalled on the platform. Imagine a hall below and a huge gallery above, packed with 6,000 or 7,000 men and women, representing the best culture of the country, and on the platform learned men of all the nations of the earth. And I, who never spoke in public in my life, to address this august assemblage. It was opened in great form with music and ceremony and speeches, and then the delegates were introduced one by one, and they stepped up and spoke. Of course my heart was fluttering and my tongue nearly dried up. I was so nervous, I could not venture to speak in the morning. Mazumdar made a nice speech, Chakravarti a nicer, and were much applauded. They were all prepared and came with ready-made speeches. I was a fool and had none, but I bowed down to Devi Saraswati, the footnote, the Hindu goddess of learning and wisdom, and stepped up, and Dr. Barrows, the footnote reads, Dr. John Henry Barrows, 1847 to 1902, D.D., pastor of the First Presbyterian Church of Chicago, was appointed as the chairman of the General Committee on Religious Congresses of the World's Auxiliary. Dr. Barrows introduced me. My yellow robe had some effect, and I made a short speech of thanking them and other things. I addressed the assembly as Sisters and Brothers of America. The footnote reads, years later, in May 1900, at Camp Taylor, Marin County, California, Swamiji revealed, "In my first speech in this country, in Chicago, I addressed that audience as sisters and brothers of America. And you know that they all rose to their feet. You may wonder what made them do this. You may wonder if I had some strange power. Let me tell you that I did have a power, and this is it. Never once in my life did I allow myself to have even one sexual thought. I trained my mind, my thinking, and the powers that man usually uses along that line, I put into a higher channel, and it developed a force so strong that nothing could resist it." Footnote ends. I address the assembly as Sisters and Brothers of America. A deafening applause of 2 minutes followed, and then I proceeded. And when it was finished, I sat down, almost exhausted with emotion. The next day, all the papers announced that my speech was the hit of the day, and I became known to the whole of America. Truly, it is said by the greatest commentator Sridhara, "Mukam karoti vachalam, thou makest the dumb fluent speakers." The footnote reads, "Mukam karoti vachalam, Gita Invocation, verse 7 by Sridhara, the writer of the gloss on Gita. His name be praised. From that day I became the celebrity, and the day I read my paper on Hinduism, the hall was packed as it had never been before." Paper on Hinduism, the footnote reads, "The paper was officially entitled Hinduism as a Religion, that Swamiji read at 5 o'clock in the evening on 19th of September 1893 at the Parliament of Religions in the Hall of Columbus of the Memorial Art Palace, now the Art Institute of Chicago. Prior to reading his paper, he gave a short speech, perhaps a prelude, which was reported in the Chicago Tribune on September 20, 1893. Reads in part, Dr. Noble presented Swami Vivekananda, the Hindu monk, who was applauded loudly as he stepped forward to the center of the platform. He wore an orange robe bound with a scarlet sash and a pale yellow turban. The customary smile was on his handsome face, and his eyes shone with animation. Said he, "We who come from the East have sat here on the platform day after day and have been told in a patronizing way that we ought to accept Christianity because Christian nations are the most prosperous. We look about us and we see England, the most prosperous Christian nation in the world, with her foot on the necks of 25,000 of Asiatics. We look back into history and see that the prosperity of Christian Europe began with Spain. Spain's prosperity began with the invasion of Mexico. Christianity wins its prosperity by cutting the throats of its fellow men. At such a price, the Hindu will not have prosperity. I have sat here today and I have heard the height of intolerance. I have heard the creed of the Muslim applauded, when today the Muslim sword is carrying destruction into India. Blood and sword are not for the Hindu, whose religion is based on the law of love." When the applause had ceased, Mr. Vivekananda went to read his paper, a summary of which follows. Paper on Hinduism. Footnote ends. I quote to you from one of the papers. Ladies, ladies, ladies packing every place, filling every corner. They patiently waited and waited, while the papers that separated them from Vivekananda were read, etc. You would be astonished if I send over to you the newspaper cuttings. But as you already know, I am a hater of celebrity. Suffice it to tell you that whenever I would be on the platform, a deafening applause would be raised for me. Nearly all the papers paid high tributes to me. Even the most bigoted had to admit that this man, with his handsome face and magnetic presence and wonderful oratory, is the most prominent figure in the parliament, etc., etc. Suffice it for you to know that never before had an Oriental made such an impression on American society. And how to speak of their kindness? I have no more wants now. I am very well off, and all the money I require to visit Europe I will get from here. So you needn't trouble yourself anymore with sending money. One thing, did you send up the 800 rupees in a lump? I have only got 30 pound from cooks. If you and the Maharaja, Ajit Singh, sent it separately, perhaps the whole has not reached me yet. If you sent it in a lump, please inquire. A boy called P. Narasimhacharya has cropped up in our midst. He has been loafing about the city for the last 3 years. Loafing or no loafing, I like him. Please write to me all about him if you know anything. He knows you. He came in the year of the Paris exhibition to Europe. I have now more than 200 pound in my pocket after paying the heavy expenses of clothing, etc. And I have not to spend a cent for my boarding and lodging, for many of the handsomest houses in this city are open to me, and all the time I am living as a guest with somebody or other. There is a curiosity in this nation such as you meet with nowhere else. They want to know everything, and they are women. They are the most advanced in the world. The average American woman is far more cultivated than the average American man. The man slaves all his life for money, and the women snatch the opportunity to improve themselves. And yet, they are a very kind-hearted, frank people. Everybody who has a fad to preach comes here, and I am ashamed to say that most of these are not sound. The Americans have their faults too, and what nation has not? But this is my summing up. Asia laid the germs of civilization, Europe developed man, and America is developing women and the masses. It is the paradise of the women and the laborer. Now contrast these with our masses and women, and you get the idea at once. And the Americans are fast becoming liberal. Judge them not by the specimens of the hard-shelled Christians. It is their own phrase that you see in India. There are those here too, but their number is fast decreasing. And this great nation is progressing rapidly towards that spirituality which is the standard boast of the Hindu. The Hindu must not give up his religion, but must keep religion within its proper limits and give freedom to society to grow. All the reforms in India made the serious mistake of holding religion accountable for all the horrors of priestcraft and degeneration, and went forthwith to pull down the indestructible structure. And what was the result? Failure. Beginning from Buddha down to Ram Mohan Roy, everyone made the mistake of holding caste to be a religious institution and tried to pull down religion and caste altogether and failed. But with all the ravings of the priests, caste is simply a crystallized social institution, which after doing its service is now covering the atmosphere of India with its stench, and it can only be removed by giving back to the people their lost social individuality. Every man born here knows that he is a man. Every man born in India knows that he is a slave of society. Now freedom is the only condition of growth. Take that off, the result is degeneration. With the introduction of modern competition, how caste is disappearing fast. No religion is now necessary to kill it. The Brahmana shopkeeper, shoemaker, and wine distiller are common in northern India. And why? Competition. No man is prohibited from doing anything he pleases for his livelihood under the present government, and the result is neck and neck competition. Thus thousands are seeking and finding the highest level they were born for, instead of vegetating at the bottom. I must remain in this country at least through the winter and then go to Europe. The Lord will provide everything for me, so you need not disturb yourself about it. I cannot express my gratitude for your love. Day by day, I am feeling that the Lord is with me and I am trying to follow His direction. His will be done. Please send this letter to Khetri Maharaj and do not publish it. We will do great things for the world, and that for the sake of doing good and not name and fame and name. Ours is to do and die, ours not to question why. Be of good cheer and believe in my or your destiny. We are selected by the Lord to do great things, and we will do them. Hold yourself in readiness, that is, be pure, holy, and love for love's sake. Love the poor, the miserable, the downtrodden, and the Lord will bless you. See the Raja of Ramnad and others from time to time and influence them to sympathize with the masses of India. Tell them how they are standing on the neck of the poor, and that they are not fit to be called men if they do not try to raise them up. Be fearless, the Lord is with you, and He will yet raise the starving and ignorant millions of India. A railway porter here is better educated than many of your young men and most of your princes. Why cannot we do the same? We must. Every American woman is far better educated than millions of Hindu women. Why cannot we have it? We must. Think not that you are poor. Money is not power, but goodness, holiness. Come and see how it is the power all over the world. Yours with blessings, Vivekananda. Postscript. By the by, your uncle's paper, footnote reads, Sri Parthasarthi Iyengar of Triplicane, Madras, who associated with the Hindu League in America. In search of a representative of Hinduism, Dr. Barrows had written to Dr. William Miller, the principal of Madras Christian College at the time, about the upcoming Parliament of Religions in America. Dr. Miller then informed Parthasarthi Iyengar, who in turn informed his nephew Alasinga Perumal. Footnote ends. By the way, your uncle's paper was the most curious phenomena I ever saw. It was like a tradesman's catalogue, and it was not thought fit to be read in the Parliament. So Narasimhacharya read a few extracts from it in a side hall, and nobody understood a word of it. Do not tell him of it. It is a great art to press the largest number of thought into the smallest number of words. Even Manilal Dwivedi's paper. Manilal Dwivedi, the footnote reads, Sri Manilal Nabhubhai Dwivedi, 1858 to 1898, was a Vedantic scholar whom Swamiji had previously met in Nadiyad. Refer to Swamiji's letter dated 26th April 1892 to Diwan Haridas Viharidas Desai. Footnote ends. Even Manilal Dwivedi's paper had to be cut very short. More than 1,000 papers were read, and there was no time to give to such wild perorations. I had a good long time given to me over the ordinary half hour, because the most popular speakers were always put down last to hold the audience. And Lord bless them, what sympathy they had for me, and what patience. They would sit from 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. The footnote reads, the Parliament of Religions held 3 daily sessions, one in the morning at 10 a.m., another in the afternoon at 2:30 p.m., and the last in the evening at 8 p.m. Only a recess of half an hour for a meal, and paper after paper read, most of them very trivial, but they would wait and wait to hear their favorites. Dharmapal of Ceylon was one of the favorites, but unfortunately he was not a good speaker. He had only quotations from Max Muller and Rhys Davies to give them. He was a very sweet man, and we became very intimate during the Parliament. A Christian lady from Pune, Miss Jean Sorabji, and the Jain representative Mr. Gandhi are going to remain longer in the country and make lecture tours. I hope they will succeed. Lecturing is a very profitable occupation in this country and sometimes pays much. Mr. Robert Greene, Ingersoll, gets $500 to $600 a lecture. He is the most celebrated lecturer in this country. Do not publish this letter. After reading, send it to the Maharaja of Khetri. I have sent him my photograph in America. V. Om Tat Sat.